Well, welcome one and all to Bike Racing Without Mercy, atop my favourite climb from Zwift. That is, of course, the Bologna time trial climb, which in Zwift you can only ascend in certain events. However, of course, in real life, as today, you can climb it any time you want. Of course, that is if you're prepared to fly out to Bologna, and it's definitely worth doing that, as you're going to see. Now, Jane and I are away with friends on a long weekend, so I haven't got the video with me, but I have hired a Fuji bike. It's 10.5 kilograms. It's got a mechanical Shimano 105, but it actually climbs all right. I've just done a little warm-up lap and I'm reasonably pleased with it. So anyway, going to have a full gas compare and contrast against our favourite virtual climb. The Santa Maria Church and the Pope blessing this Fuji and all who journey on her. Now, additionally, Jay and myself and my friends yesterday explored this climb, ascending and descending the beautiful colonnades all the way to the top to the cathedral. And it's definitely got way more beauty and a lot more intrigue than ever you could imagine from Zwift. Therefore, during a compare and contrast, I'm going to show you a little bit of the film from yesterday to show you just how mesmerising this climb is. So I'm going to descend the climb and then hit it full gas. Let's do the compare and contrast. Cheers. Now, doing my best to mimic the setup I had in real life. So, as always for me personally, in Zwift, in terms of the settings, the hardware, 100% trainer difficulty is turned on for the real life gains, because when I run out of gears in real life, I like to run out of them virtually. As always, also, as you can see here, we go to the pairing, the Vivero Asiomas are powering Zwift. I always use the Viveros outside, therefore it's consistency. Also, they read about 7 watts lower than the kicker bike. The signal will come back when I start turning the pedals. Now, because today's video is all about the science, but also the historical intrigue, as you're going to see, I decided to forgo my usual resplendent blue Tron virtually, and instead have tried to mimic IRL, where I rode the Fuji, an aluminium Fuji. Now, as I mentioned outdoors, it was about 10.5 kilograms, so I tried to find something similar on Zwift, but to no avail. I couldn't find an aluminium bike, but I did, however, find a really beautiful steel bike, a Zwift steel bike. And as I think you're going to see here, it does look very beautiful. Look at this. The angle rear facing view almost looks like one of the Villiers of old in the Ramata. And then, if you go to the chase, look at this. For the aficionados, the rims, as had the Fuji, as it happens. And of course, I've got my weight set to 66 kilograms as it was outside. Here you go. Having warmed down nicely as I did outside, it's time to get on with the effort. Minus a crowd on the right hand side of the road, and having waited for traffic for a sharper right hand turn than you get on Zwift, the climb commenced. Hitting the climb from the same direction as Zwift. Believe it or not, that took quite a long time to be able to find a spot to do that. I'm going to pace myself into the climb. IRL, you immediately sense that the start of the climb is steeper than that of Zwift. However, the tarmac is smooth. It does get actually a lot steeper than it feels in Zwift. And for about the first 2 minutes 50, I averaged 322 watts. I'm going to try and mimic that now. It won't be precise, notwithstanding the science. And as it happens, I do get pretty close over the overall climb to replicating the power indoors to that outside. I'm using some of the film captured the day before when walking up and down the climb with Jane and friends in order to capture just how unique and special this climb is. Notice how I'm on the right hand side of the road, not the left, as for Zwift. Alas, His Eminence Archbishop of Watopia, Mr. Eric Min, forsake me and deposited me in the middle of the road. Note to self, make better use of the steering. This section evidences nicely the higher power needed to put down for lower speed than virtually due to the steeper gradient. The entrance here to the city of Bologna and a world of medieval towers, colonnades, beautiful churches and cathedrals, plus monuments, good food and great wine. From this corner in both real life and virtually, you get lovely views over the Bologna Football Club stadium, As an FYI, they qualified for the Champions League in 24 for the first time since 1964 when it was the European Cup. And I can report also that Aston Villa beat them 2-0 at home, as did Liverpool. They're yet to win. Fingers crossed for them. Now moving on from football to seamlessly blend Zwift with culture and religious history. I can report that this is a World Heritage Site because we get to climb next to the portico of San Luca, known as the Colonnade of Basilica of San Luca, which is the world's longest covered walkway and archway, where building commenced in 1674 with the intent of protecting the Byzantine Madonna with child icon during its annual procession down from the sanctuary of San Luca, i.e. the cathedral at the top of the hill, to the Bologna Cathedral at the bottom. And they've been doing this since 1433, but needed a spot of shade, hence the decision to build the world's longest covered walkway and archway. Nice. Try to save energy here. The Byzantine Madonna with child icon, of course, predicts Mary with her infant son Jesus. And using a not dissimilar logic, back in the UK, hundreds of years ago, up in the Lake District, one would have hoped that the Romans would have had the foresight to build a colonnade of Rhinos Pass and Hardknot Pass to shield them from the rain and the wind. Now, as the gradient came off, I settled back into about 270. For me personally, I like to ride the climb and invest a little bit more power on the steeper gradients, and then, having brought the speed up a bit on the shallower, ease off the power to a nice strong threshold in order to bring down the heart rate a tad and conserve a little bit of energy for the assault on the steepest section incoming. Trying to conserve energy here for the really steep bit. Happily here, delivering similar power on similar gradients and therefore not dissimilar speed, a tad faster on Zwift. Now it gets hard. It sure does. But for me personally, moments like these epitomise why we train and overcome the setbacks. Virtually, spiritually and in actuality, the Byzantine Madonna and her child icon welcome us into the euphoric heart of the ascent. Consistently, the gradients are higher on the steeper segments of San Luca than on Zwift. So here, the avatar on Zwift is getting away from me at lower power. Tough old section this, I'll let the breathing do the talking. That's about 340, 350 watts like this. Once again, the shallower gradients virtually enable my avatar to drop me at slightly lower power and negotiate the corner ahead of me. But once again, San Luca shallows off just that bit more rapidly, and therefore I'm able to bridge back across to my avatar with a little bit lower power in real life. As for Zwift, once you pass under the second arch, the single-digit gradients of 4 to 7% feel flat and luxurious. So time now to build the speed and the power ready for a crescendo on the final steepish ramp. In other little bro science experiments, so as to compare and contrast the speed on Zwift with that in real life at similar or identical power, I've usually found that Zwift is about 10% faster. And that's whether the comparison is 100 kilometers on the flat, VO2 max up Box Hill, or threshold up the Alp. There's a couple of links to those videos at the end of this one. And here I find exactly the same. Even though the power, the bike and the weight are similar, I'm faster virtually. So every so often have had to cut the virtual display in order to allow me to catch back up in real life. My cycling pilgrimage to the sanctuary of San Luca, perched atop the Col della Gardia, is nearing the finale on this last ramp. And it goes without saying that the Italians of the region Emilia-Romagna surpassed themselves, building this magnificent eminence affording 360-degree views over Bologna. This is indeed tourism, culture, and a little bit of bro science without mercy. Entrance to the cathedral on the left. No, I stopped here, IRL. I get the mistake. That was pretty close. 315 watts for the effort. Well, that was good power for me. 315 to 320 for 8.5 to 9 minutes. I reckon a climb takes about 8 minutes on Zwift. I can't quite remember. I should do. I got up it loads of times. But beautiful road surface. That does make a difference compared to certainly Rhinos, Hard Knot, Bleed Town, etc. in the UK. Really, really uplifting climb. It is so beautiful on the eyes. As you've seen, tons and tons of intrigue. And as you can see, the colonnades, even more beautiful in real life, providing a lovely shade during the heat of the Bologna summer for the Catholic Church to bring the Madonna down from the cathedral into Bologna. Deep, deep respect. Lots of shrines along the way. 666 different levels to get to the top, but super elated with that, and definitely I highly recommend Bologna for a weekend break. The food is fantastic, the city is literally mesmerizing to wander around. That beautiful Italian kind of dilapidation that looks so stylish, and of course you can hire a bike or bring your own and take on Zwift's finest climb. It's a beautiful city, so I figured I'd compare the stats whilst in the background providing a brief tour and virtual comparison. The Zwift TT Climb is 2.06 kilometres averaging 9.6% gradient, and I dispatched it in 8 minutes 17 seconds averaging 315 watts or 15 virtual kilometres an hour. Now the closest real world comparison is this. It's a 2.1 kilometre segment averaging 9.7%. And I completed it in 9 minutes 18 seconds, averaging 308 watts or 13.6 kilometers an hour. Now, as I said in the video, I did pull the plug a little bit too early outdoors and freewheeled the final 150 meters or so. And that drove down the power and the speed. But overall, you can see it was a pretty close representation. However, to make the comparison just that little bit more accurate, I decided to plot the route on Training Peaks, encompassing only the steep section of the San Luca climb and the Zwift climb, both from the bottom to the gate of the cathedral. As you can see, it was a tad longer on Zwift, clocking in at 1.94 kilometres at 9.9% average gradient versus IRL 1.88 kilometres at 10%. Now outdoors, it took me 8 minutes and 56 seconds, averaging 12.6 kilometres an hour, and that was at 320 watt average. Whilst on Zwift, my time was 8 minutes flat, averaging 315 watts or 14.5 kilometres an hour. So on Zwift, it was about 11.5% faster. I certainly think that the Zwift representation is excellent, and it definitely captured my imagination years before I took on the real thing. The steep bits are a little bit steeper in real life, and on Zwift the gradient is never as harsh, but it is more consistent for longer. And you can also see that the Zwift city captures the essence of the real thing, the real Bologna. And overall, this experience reinforced my love of the virtual climb. Post-ride nutrition, courtesy of Bologna, and to the climbers, the Primitivo spoils. Cheers.